recording.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining us today. We are the Economic Development Collaborative. My name is Claire Brilio. I'm the Business Disruption Resource Director and the Communications Director for the Economic Development Collaborative and the Small Business Development Center. I'm sure that many of you are already clients of ours, and for those of you who are not, welcome. Today, we're going to be talking through a lot of information, starting first with the California Business Relief Grant, and also through upcoming updates around the CARES Act and everything that's going to be happening in the next couple months through PPP, EIDL, and just new CARES Act funding coming our way. We're also familiar and aware of additional local grants coming down the road. So it's going to be a busy new year. So welcome. We will have time for Q&A at the end. I am joined by Emily Barony and Visionality, her team behind the scenes. Just a few housekeeping rules here. Please use the Q&A feature located at the bottom of your screen. If you have a question, we will not be answering questions during the presentation. They will be answered at the end. If you have a question or a problem, I should say, with your anything technical, please use the chat feature that's located on the bottom of the screen as well. And we already, we have about 173 people here with us right now. Over 500, nearly 600 of you actually signed up for this webinar. This will be recorded. We will be sending you a recording with notes probably by Monday. So heads up for that. And you will have the opportunity to speak with one of our advisors at no cost to you at the end of this webinar if you do not get your question answered. And I want to make that really clear. There's a lot of people on this webinar, and if you have a question and we don't get to it, you can call our office and we will answer it directly for you. Or if we can't answer it, we will direct you to someone who can. So thank you again for joining us. And I'm going to hand it off to Juliana Ramirez, who is one of our EDC SBDC advisors, a financial expert. She owns her own finance and accounting firm, and she is the expert at the moment of all things COVID relief related, PPP, grants, etc. So Juliana, thank you so much for joining us, and I hand it off to you.
Thank you, Claire. Thank you for having me, and thank you for allowing me to share this information with our viewers today. Next slide, please. Like Claire said, I'm Juliana Ramirez, and I'm an accounting professional, bookkeeper, entrepreneur, business advisor, and certified QuickBooks Online Pro advisor. And I am an EDC SBDC advisor and finance expert through EDC. Next slide, please.
Hey, Juliana, I'm going to break in really quick. Everyone, thank you for being here. And I see all of your questions are coming in on the chat, and we want you to put those in the Q&A feature so that they don't get lost. So if you've already put something into the chat, please repost it into the Q&A feature.
Yes, please do that, as we will try to answer as many questions as we can at the end of the presentation. Like we said, we won't be taking questions unless, Emily, you feel that there's something that we need to clarify as I'm sharing. Please feel free to jump in. However, we will wait for those questions towards the end.
Correct. Yes. So I'll be going through the questions on the Q&A, and I'll answer the really easy things that I know. And if we have duplicate questions, we'll go ahead and archive them. So yeah, just pop those in the Q&A and we'll get to them at the end.
Right. If you've joined any of other webinars, you'll probably find some of this information, you know, it is already has already been shared throughout. Our goal here today is to, you know, be able to clarify some of those things that may still not be clear for you. The key features that we will be talking about today will be the latest news about the California COVID-19 Business Relief Grant Program, our second round of PPP, the EIDL extension, and expanded unemployment benefits. We'll try to cover all of this within this time. Next slide, please. So for those of you who don't know, on December 4th, 2020, Governor Newsom announced immediate assistance for California businesses impacted by COVID-19, including temporary tax relief and 500 million in grants. The assistance includes tax relief for businesses impacted by COVID-19. If you recall, in April 2020, the governor, through an executive order, allowed taxpayers to apply for penalty and interest relief for 90 days for any taxpayer reporting less than $1 million in sales on their tax return. Through November 22nd, some 9,200 plans with almost 109 million in tax relief had been taken advantage of this program. The governor directed California Department of Tax and Fee Administration to do the following, which was provide an automatic 3-month extension for taxpayers filing less than 1 million in sales tax on their return and extend the availability existing interest and penalty-free payment agreements to companies with up to 5 million in taxable sales. It brought in opportunities for more businesses to enter into interest-free payment arrangements, and it also expanded interest-free payment options for larger businesses, particularly affected by significant restrictions on operations based on COVID-19 transmissions. The second assistance was a 500 million for new COVID relief grant for small businesses, which is one of the items we're going to be touching on shortly. He announced the creation of those 500 million COVID relief grant that will be administered by the California Office of the Small Business Advocate, and we now know that is being serviced by Lendistry. Last week, he also announced he also announced the increase of funding for the California Rebuilding Fund by 12.5 million. The additional funding will help the third-party administrator of the fund raise 125 million to make more low-interest loans to small businesses with less access to loans from traditional banking institutions. Next slide, please. And the latest updates for those of you who have already applied for the California Small Business COVID Relief Grant Program is that the new passwords went out to all current applicants on yesterday. That was, or 2 days ago, I'm sorry. And your password prior to 1/6 can no longer be used to enter the system. Your username will stay the same. If you have not yet received your initial username and password, this will be it moving forward. Once again, we want to remind that the new dates and deadlines for this program are from December 30th, and it closes on January 13th at 11:59 p.m. The update and upload of documents for in-process applications will started on January 6th, and it'll continue through January 13th at 11:59. We highly, next slide, please. We highly encourage you to visit californiareliefgrant.com for a complete overview of the program and for access to the application guides for both the for-profit businesses and nonprofit organizations, which provide a step-by-step guidance on how to complete your application properly and successfully. Once again, if you have already applied, we highly encourage you to visit this link so that you can have access to these guides. These guides are truly have almost or everything that you need to be able to complete the application successfully. Next slide, please. I want to just take a minute to review the process or the program overview of how this the layout of this program is going to be. We know that there's going to be the process for the applicants obviously to apply. Then there will be the time for documentation collection. This is when you are going to be able to upload your documents, which most of you are in that process right now. Then from there, there's going to be a scorecard or review of those applications so that then they can get selected, which will complete round 1. Once those are selected, you will be either approved. Once you're approved, you'll go through a validation process. You then will also have to complete a grant agreement and W-9, and then you'll be receiving the funds. If you are selected in this first round, if you are not selected in this first round and are approved, you will automatically be entered into the second round, which at that time you will either be approved or not selected. And also, if you didn't apply or do not apply during the first round, you will be able to apply during the second round. If you do not meet the program's minimum requirements, you will not be selected. Next slide, please. So I just want to briefly again go over the program itself. This information, like I said, can be found in the website of the COVID-19 Relief Grant Program. The first round, like we said, started on December 30th at 6 a.m. and it's going to close on January 13 at 11:59 p.m. The start of approval notifications will be on January 15th. And those that submitted their application and submitted all their documentation in the first round do not need to reapply. Qualified applications will be automatically rolled over into the next funding round of consideration. Round two, it's yet to be determined, but it will follow the same process. And the final application window for the program will be again announced at a later time. Grant awards for businesses in the second application window will be made in 2 decision rounds for funding. Next slide, please. The information that it's going to be necessary for you to be able to complete the application itself is as a signed certification, which is going to be used to certify your business, business financial information, such as your most recent tax return file, either 2019 or 2018, provided in an electronic form for online upload, such as a PDF or JPEG or other approved upload format. A copy of official filing with the California Secretary of State, if applicable, or local municipality for the business, such as one of the following: articles of incorporation, certificate of organization, fictitious business name of registration, or government issued business license. I would say the most simple for those of you who are not incorporated would be your business license. And number 3 will be a government issued photo ID, such as a driver's license or passport. One complete application will qualify you to be considered for both rounds. We cannot stress that enough. So please only apply once. And applying through multiple organizations will delay your application from being processed. Owners of multiple businesses, franchises, locations, etc., will be considered for only one grant and are required to apply for the business with the highest revenue. Next slide, please. The grant amounts they range from $5,000 to $25,000 for eligible business that have annual revenue from $1,000 to $100,000. The grant amount available is $5,000. The greater than $100,000 up to $1 million is $15,000, and the greater than $1 million up to $2.5 million is $25,000. Businesses are eligible based on their annual revenue as documented in their most recent tax return. And I just want to clarify, business revenue is mainly the sales or the gross sales from your business. Nothing else that is would be included there. Next slide, please. The eligibility, as a small business or small nonprofit, you must satisfy the following criteria to be eligible to receive a grant award. And that would be, you must meet the definition of an eligible small business. And an eligible small business means a small business like a sole proprietor, independent contractor, 1099 worker, and or registered for-profit business entity, such as a C Corp, S Corp, limited liability company, partnership, etc., that has yearly gross revenue of $2.5 million or less, but at least $1,000 in yearly gross revenue, based on their most recently filed tax return. Or for a small nonprofit, that would be a registered 501c3, 501c19, or 501c6 nonprofit entity having yearly gross revenue of 2.5 million or less, but at least $1,000 in yearly gross revenue based on most recently filed Form 990. You must also have an active business or nonprofit operating since at least June 1st, 2019. So if you just started the business, or if you started the business after June 1st, you would not qualify. We want to be clear on that. Businesses must currently be operating or have a clear plan to reopen once the state of California permits reopening of the business. Next slide, please. Businesses must be impacted by COVID-19 and the health and safety restrictions such as business interruptions or business closures incurs as a result of COVID-19 pandemic. Business must be able to provide organizing documents including their 2018 or 2019 tax returns or Forms 990, a copy of official filing with the California Secretary of State for those that are incorporated, or local municipality for the business, such as one of the items that we've already mentioned. Again, like a business license. Business must be able to provide acceptance form of government issued photo ID, and applicants with multiple business entities, franchises, locations are not eligible for multiple grants and are only allowed to apply once using their eligible small business with the highest revenue. Next slide, please. Now, how will the grant recipients be determined? The first applications will be reviewed to determine whether the applicant meets the eligibility requirements. Eligible business will then be scored based on COVID-19 impact factors incorporated into the program's priority criteria, so that distribution can take into account priority key factors, including the following: geographic distribution based on COVID-19 health and safety restrictions following California's blueprint for a safer economy and counting status and the new regional stay-at-home order. The state has that blueprint where they know which locations are the most affected and are at a current stay-at-home order. The industry sectors must be impacted by the pandemic, and underserved small businesses groups served by the state-supported network of small business centers, such as business majority owned and run on a daily basis by women, minorities, persons of color, veterans, and businesses located in low moderate income and rural communities. Basically, we need to understand that these are who are going to be given priority first. Next slide, please. The businesses that are not eligible are businesses without a physical location in California. So even if you are doing business in California but do not have a physical location, you would not qualify. Nonprofit businesses not registered as a 501c3, 501c, or 501c6. Government entities other than Native American tribes or elected official offices. Businesses primarily engage in political or lobbying activities, regardless of whether such entities qualify. Passive businesses, investment companies, and investors who file a Schedule E on their personal tax returns. Churches and other religious institutions, regardless of whether such entities qualify as any of those these type of entities. Financial business primarily engaged in the business of lending, such as banks, finance companies, and factoring companies, and businesses engaged in any activity that is illegal under federal, state, or local law. Next slide, please. Businesses of a prurient sexual nature, including businesses which present live performances of sexual nature, and businesses which derive directly or indirectly more than the minimis gross revenue through the sale of products or services or the presentation of any depictions or displays of a prurient sexual nature. Businesses engage in any socially undesirable activity or activity that may be considered predatory in nature, such as rent-to-own businesses and check cashing businesses. businesses that restrict patronage for any reason other than capacity, and speculative businesses. Next slide, please. And again, I just want to remind everyone that all this information, it can be reviewed once again and in more detail on the website. I'm actually going to move through the next slide. The required documents, like we've already mentioned, businesses will need the following. And again, for a step-by-step instruction of all this information that you'll need, please refer to the application instructions, which you can, find those guides on the website. First, you're going to need an application certification. It's going to need that certification is going to be needed to certify your business financial information, such as your tax returns, and your government issued ID, such as a driver's license or a passport. Next slide. We want to make sure that we give you very important reminders here. The Landistry team can be contacted at the number here on the screen or by emailing California Relief Grant at landistry.com. And if you opt to have their customer service line call you back, please be prepared to answer the phone. If you miss their call, you will need to call back to be re-entered into the queue. Landistry's hours are 7 a.m. to 7 p.m., but they will stop taking calls at 5 p.m. So if you don't call them between 7 and 5, then you will need to call them the next day. Please do not submit multiple applications. Those that have already submitted multiple applications will be contacted by Landistry to identify which applications are correct or which application is correct. And please note that then Landistry may call after the deadline closes on January 13 at 11:59. If you are not ready to submit your application for review, do not type yes into the confirmation line. Typing yes confirms that your application is accurate and that you do not want to come back to the application at a later time. If you notice when you log in and you start entering all your information, when you click continue, the system automatically saves that application. If some of you guys had applied at the beginning stages, like the very first day, you will, and we're having technical difficulties, you would have noticed that when you completed that first section and click save or continue, it automatically send you an email letting you know that they have received your application. And that is because the system automatically saves that application in their portal. So that's why you don't need to click yes unless you confirm that the application is accurate. Please remember that this is not a first come first serve application process or rolling approval process, and all eligible applicants will be considered for the grant at the close of round 1 on January 13 at 11:59 and not before. Wineries and breweries are eligible to apply. Don't forget to select the NAICS code that most closely matches your business or nonprofit activity. And 51% of ownership determines eligibility for low wealth status and minority or women or veteran owner status. If a business is owned by 2 50-50 equal partners and one is female, she may apply and certify that the business is 50% women owned. Next slide, please. If you didn't receive a completion email, then you need to go back into the portal, then go back and be sure to click yes and continue to complete it. You can find this information on page 30 to 40 in the guide. To change your password, you must go through the email, not the portal. So you would have received an email with your login and password, and that's what you use to be able to change it. You do not go onto the portal to change that. Please also do not apply through multiple partner portals. And if you are not ready to submit your application to review, once again, do not type yes. Next slide, please. Now I'm going to jump into the consolidated Consolidated Appropriations Act of 2021. As you know, on Monday, December 28th, President Trump signed a $900 billion COVID-19 relief bill, formerly known as Consolidated Appropriations Act 2021, for short CAA 2021, or CARES Act 2, which includes funding for a second round of payments protection program, PPP loans. What we know now is that most banks will be participating in the latest round of PPP loans. However, no applications are being accepted at this time. And the Treasury Department did announce yesterday, January 7th, that the Patient Protection Program will reopen the week of January 11th. That would be this Monday for new borrowers and certain existing PPP borrowers. To promote access to capital, initially only commonly financial institutions will be able to make first draw PPP loans on Monday and second draw PPP loans on Wednesday, January 13th. The PPP will open to all participating lenders shortly after that. Our recommendation is that you first contact the lender. If you have already received a PPP loan and are interested or a second draw, that you contact your financial institution and see if they are accepting or they will be participating in the program. And after that, if they are not, then that you start seeking maybe going into one of these community financial institutions. And that's what we know so far. As you know, the information is constantly changing, so we encourage you to contact us to be able to help you continue navigating these resources. Next slide, please. So I just want to go through a reminder of what the original Paycheck Protection Program was, or how it was designed originally. The loans were available through August 8th. You could borrow up to 100%, up to 100% forgivable if it was spent on covered cost and employment and wage levels maintained. Borrowers must have been in operation with employees on February 15, 2020. Businesses and nonprofit organizations with 500 or fewer employees. If you are a 500 employee exception for hospitality food businesses by a physical location. Certain franchises may also qualify as separate businesses. The loan amounts were up to 250% of the average monthly payroll cost from 12-month look-back period up to 10 millions. And the payroll costs that could be included and covered by this patient protection program was wages, health, retirement, state and local taxes, and other costs, and excluded cash compensation prorated over 100,000 per employee, workers' compensation premiums, payments to independent contractors, and employer paid federal taxes. Next slide. What this new round does is that the new act has allocated 284.5 billion to new PPP loans and makes significant changes to the key provisions of the original program. And some of those key provisions are that loans are available through March 31st, 2021. So again, starting Monday, banks will start processing those applications through March 31st or until the allocated funds have been exhausted. Many changes made by this by this new law apply retroactively to prior issued loans, other than those PPP loans that have already been forgiven. So if your loan has already been forgiven, if you've already applied for forgiveness and you've already been forgiven, then the new changes wouldn't apply to that. However, if you haven't applied for forgiveness, then the changes do apply to your current or your existing loan. The changes impact the eligibility, the loan amounts, the second draw of loans, and eligible cost and forgiveness. Next slide, please. The eligibility for the existing and new borrowers. For existing borrowers, the max that they can borrow, it's 2.5 average monthly payroll up to 2.5 million. They need to have 300 or fewer employees. They must have used or will use the full amount of their first PPP loan and can show a 25% gross revenue decline in any 2020 quarter compared with the same quarter in 2019. I want to make sure that everyone understands this one. You must be able to demonstrate a 25% gross revenue decline in any 2020 quarter compared with the same quarter in 2019. For new borrowers, the max that you can borrow is 2.5 average monthly payroll, which also up to 2.5 millions, or 3.5 average monthly payroll for certain industries, and I will go over that which industry that is in a minute. Businesses with 500 or fewer employees that are eligible for other SBA 7A loans. I want to clarify that you don't have to apply for a loan. You just must be able to be eligible for this type of loan, but does not mean that you need to apply for one. Sole proprietors, independent contractors, and eligible self-employed individuals, not-for-profit organizations, including churches, that's a new change, and accommodation and food services operations with fewer than 300 employees per physical location. Next slide, please. So for the specific support, there's a specific support for these industries. In this case, I mentioned that for new borrowers, now there's a provision where you can borrow more than you were able to in the past. This is for accommodation and food services. So if you're a restaurant, you now qualify for the increased 3.5% average monthly wages. For nonprofits, it expanded the PPP eligibility for 501c6s, which include local newspapers, radio and television broadcasters, and destination marketing organizations. For transportation, 45 billion allocated to support transportation providers and infrastructure. And for event services, 15 billion for grants to live venue operators or promoters, theatrical producers, live performing arts organization operations, museum organizations, motion picture theater operators, or talent representatives. You must show 25% reduction in revenues. The initial grants are up to 10 millions with subsequent grants up to 50% of the initial grant, and a special reserve for those businesses that have less than 50 employees. Next slide, please. As far as the eligible payroll costs, they mainly remain the same. However, the Act does clarify that other employee-provided group insurance benefits, such as life, vision, dental, and disability insurance premiums, are included in this new payroll cost. In the past, it had not clarified that. So other than the original expenses, now it also clarifies that you can include life, vision, dental, and disability insurance premiums. The payroll costs that are not eligible are, the Act also clarifies that those funds can only be used for any individual employee or sole proprietors pay up to $100,000 as prorated for the period during which the payment is made or incurred. Everything else also remains the same. Next slide, please. This change also makes eligible non-payroll PPP expenses to now include operations expenses, supplier costs, worker protection expenses, and covered property damage costs. That for operation expenses, that is defined as payments for business software and cloud computing services and other human resources and accounting needs that facilitate business operations. On supplier costs, these are defined as payments to a supplier for goods that are essential to the operations of the borrower pursuant to a contract or purchase order in effect before the PPP loan is disbursed, or with respect to perishable goods in effect at any time. For worker protection expenses, that includes expenses that go toward keeping employees safer during COVID-19, including personal protective equipment, better known as PPP, drive-through windows, sneeze guards, and outside dining enclosures. And for covered, it covers property damage costs that are not, that occurred in 2020 that were not covered by your insurance. So this is definitely an expansion to the type of expenses. However, the rule of 60-40 still remains, where the funds need to be still spend 60%, at least 60% on payroll and 40% for other expenses. Next slide, please. The following changes also applied for forgiveness. The cover period is slightly modified to be 8 to 24 week period immediately following the disbursement of the loan, and borrowers can select the duration between 8 and 24 weeks. In the past, we used to have to select either 8 or 24. With this new change, now you can elect to ask for forgiveness even before the end of the 24-week period, but not earlier than the 8 weeks. So you are now able to select from 8 to 24, but you do not have to wait until the 24 weeks to ask for forgiveness. The alternative payroll cover period, it will still likely remain. There's also now a simplified forgiveness applications for all loans under 150,000. If you were waiting on indication from your bank, they probably, had started the process, but now have told you to hold off because there's going to be a simplified forgiveness application for those loans up to under 150,000 or up to 150,000. Now the EIDL grants no longer are deducted from PPP forgiveness. If you recall, prior to this change, if you had borrowed money and had also received a PPP loan and you had also received an EIDL grant, then that grant, the forgiveness amount was reduced by that EIDL grant. That is not the case anymore. So that is great news for those borrowers that had the full $10,000 grant. Now they don't have to pay it back if they are fully forgiven on their loan. And the Paycheck Protection Program loans are not taxable. Next slide, please. There's also a new safe harbor deadline, and that is that the PPP penalizes borrowers that reduce wage or employment levels during the covered period, but provides a safe harbor that allow borrowers to exclude certain reductions. The reductions occurring between February 15 and April 26 are excluded if reversed by December 31st, 2020 for borrowers with loans issued on or before August 8th. For new borrowers, including second draw loans, such reductions must be reversed by the end of the cover period. And now that cover period is by the time that you select to ask for forgiveness. It also applies to reductions due to compliance with closure orders and where employees refuses to be rehired. Next slide, please. We've already touched on the simplified forgiveness applications for loans up to 150 or less. The SBA will be providing borrowers with an attestation form, or the simplified form will include an attestation for the number of employees retained through the loan, the estimated amount is spent on payroll costs, and the total loan amount. The supporting records do not need to be submitted with the form, but must be retained for 4 years for employment records and 3 years for other records. So it is available to all new borrowers and prior borrowers who have not already received forgiveness. So again, if you've already received forgiveness, then this would not apply to you. But if you are haven't received forgiveness, now if you've already started an application, your bank will most likely send you this new revamped form or simplified form. Next slide. And once again, the clarification of treatment of business expenditures. These are that deductions are not prohibited anymore. So there was a clarification that indicating that forgiven PPP loans are not taxable, and forgiven expenses are tax deductible. EIDL advances will no longer be deducted from a borrower's PPP forgiveness amount. I just wanted to make sure that that we were clear on that. And for more information, please refer to the SBA.gov or Treasury.gov for more information on PPP loan forgiveness and the latest on this process. Next slide, please. This new change also increased or made a change to the employee retention tax credit. The prospective changes where that the availability of this credit was extended through June 20th, 2021. It was originally available through December 31st, 2020, but now it's been extended to June 20, 2021. The amount of the credit is going to be increased from 50% to 70% of qualified wages. The wage cap increased from 10,000 in the aggregate for all calendar quarters to 14,000 per calendar quarter. And large employer for purposes of calling wages increased to 500. So just want to clarify that this credit is available now for both. You are able to apply for the ERTC credit as in the past you were not able to apply for this credit and obtain a PPP loan. Now you can, but now the most important change here is that you will need to make sure that you don't apply for the credit in the same period that you use or you paid wages with PPP funds. So our recommendation is that you speak to your tax accountant and payroll expert to assist you in understanding or in making sure that you're taking advantage of this credit in your taxes. Next slide, please. Now we're moving on to the SBA Economic Injury Disaster Loan. The SBA has extended the EIDL application deadline until December 31st, 2021. For those of you who are not familiar, the U.S. Small Business Administration offers a low-interest federal disaster loan for working capital to small businesses suffering substantial economic injury as a result of the coronavirus under the CARES Act. The existing loan has been expanded, and the key features for these type of loans are that for up to $2 million, you get up to 30-year terms with an interest rate of 2.75% for nonprofits and 3.75% for all other businesses, including independent contractors and self-employed individuals. They're eligible for business, sole proprietors, independent contractors, faith-based organizations, and nonprofit organizations, C, D, or E. It waives personal guarantees and requirement for at least 1 year in business for applications for less than $200,000, and the loans may be used to pay fixed debts, payroll, accounts payable, and other bills. It also comes with advances, the option to obtain an emergency advance of up to $10,000 within 3 days of when the SBA receives the EIDL application. Next slide, please. Those advances are the EIDL grants, and the grants are up to $10,000. The amount of the grant reduced by EIDL grant previously received. So in this case, if you've already received a grant of $2,000, then you can apply for the difference of $8,000 for that grant. 20 million have been appropriated for these type of grants. The eligibility, however, is that businesses, it's for businesses fewer than 300 employees. They need to be located in a low-income community. They have to demonstrate that they've suffered an economic loss of at least 30% and cannot be an agricultural enterprise, with some exceptions. And the other features are that the grants do not need to be repaid under any circumstance and may be used to keep employees on payroll, to pay for sick leave, meet increased production costs due to supply chains of disruptions, or pay business obligations, including debts, rent, and mortgage payments. They are not deducted from your PPP loan forgiveness, and they're not considered taxable income. Next slide, please. And Regarding expanded unemployment benefits, on December 27, the president signed, December 27, 2020, the president signed the legislation to extend federal unemployment benefits that expired on December 26, 2020. Although there will not be a gap in, or there was no gap in eligibility for the extended benefits based on the date that the legislation was signed into law, EDD cannot implement the new programs until they receive guidelines from the U.S. Department of Labor on how states must follow the law. However, they are making program adjustments with what information they have so that when the federal guidelines and final details are available, they can complete the necessary programming to make these new benefits available quickly. This new legislation restores the federal increase for all unemployment benefits, which adds $300 to each week of benefits for up to 11 weeks through March 13, 2021. They're now adding $300 to regular unemployment insurance and fed claims. We'll next be adding this pandemic unemployment assistance and pandemic emergency unemployment compensation claims. It extends pandemic unemployment assistance and pandemic emergency unemployment compensations by 11 weeks. If you are receiving these benefits, EDD will automatically recalculate your claim and notify you when you can certify for your next benefit payment. It continues the federally funded FedEd through March 14, 2021, providing up to 20 weeks of benefits and provides a supplement of $100 per week to certain mixed earners who received at least $5,000 a year in self-employment income, but were eligible for regular unemployment, not pandemic unemployment assistance. For more, next slide, please. For more information, we encourage you to visit EDD's website, the link here on this website for the latest of unemployment on EDD. Next slide, please. Want to remind everyone that if you're not able to apply for any of these other programs, EDC still has a disaster loan fund. And obviously, in addition to our traditional EDC loan funds, we are offering a 4.25 interest loan from $5,000 to $50,000 through our disaster loan fund to give a cash flow boost to business impacted by reduced sales, supply chain disruption, or other challenges related to COVID-19. The first 3 months are interest only, and the terms are 48 months. And Women's Economic Ventures also provides capital to Santa Barbara County and Ventura County businesses who are now open or eligible to open under most current government orders. This is obviously subject to change on updated orders. You can visit weaveonline.org for more information. And you can also visit our edcollaborative.com for up-to-date information on all of these resources. We encourage you to do that. And next slide, please. Don't forget that we have no-cost consulting services to assist clients. I want to go into the questions right now, actually, Emily. I know I went through all of these slides pretty quickly.
Yes. Oh my goodness, friends. We are busy in the Q&A. So I'm going to ask for a little bit of patience and forgiveness because I was answering what I could and not listening to you speak. So please be generous with me if I accidentally ask you something that you've already covered.
It's okay. I know I went quite fast through these slides, but I wanted to make sure that we share this information so that then we can go into the Q&A a bit faster.
Yeah. Also, Juliana is the expert. I'm another business owner just like all of you guys. And so if I happen to give an answer that Juliana contradicts, she is right. I'm doing my best so that we can answer as many questions as possible. Okay. The California grant proceeds are taxable income, but what is the case for C3s that are tax exempt?
Well, they would still report that as income, and they're just simply tax exempt. So, but they will still report it as an income, just like they would any other grant.
Yeah, so we've got a couple other questions about it as taxable income. So if anyone else has asked that in the Q&A, yes, the business grant is taxable income. Juliana, there were a couple questions of where the grant goes in your income statement. Does it go as gross income, or does it come in like down below as additional income?
It goes below the line because that is actually above the line, or the gross income is for the sales or the activity of your business. So you wouldn't put that there. You would actually put it below the line as other income. So if you are using something like QuickBooks, you can create a new account called grants, or COVID-19 grants, so that it's very specific, and put it as an other income at the below the line.
Got it. We had another question, and I'm not able to find it right now, but there was something about they had received grant support, and that bumped them out of the eligibility area. But I think what we need to talk about is gross income, which is sales income, not this additional income.
Correct. When we are talking about the gross income, or the sales, or the revenue, or the gross revenue for your business, we're talking about the amount of money that came through sales, or services that you provided, not
Oh, it looks like Juliana went on pause. Isn't COVID so fun, everyone?
but it would be.
Juliana, you glitched out. Could you say that answer one more time?
Sorry, I said, so gross revenue is your, from the activity of sales or services, any relief that you might have received, or any, grants that you might have received, do not fall under gross revenue for your, for your business. So you should not count that money in. And if you're talking about the California Relief Grant, we are essentially saying that whatever you received in 2019, or whatever you made in 2019 versus what you would have made in 2020, or what you made in 2020, not including any relief or assistance that you might have received.
Great, thank you. Could I still apply for the PPP loan even if I would receive unemployment benefits as an independent contractor?
So remember that the PPP loan, the Payment Protection Program, is designed to replace, or to keep people off unemployment. So if you cannot double dip. So that still remains the same. You can apply for the PPP loan as long as you are not applying for unemployment benefits. However, if you are doing it for, if you lost your job and have an independent, and are working as an independent contractor, and can apply for the portion of what you lost, that income, then that would be a different dynamic. But just understand, or make sure that you are not applying for both benefits for the same type of income, to replace the same type of income that you would have that you had.
So does that mean if I received unemployment benefits for January, I can't also apply for PPP and use PPP for January, but I could use PPP for February as long as I didn't also get unemployment in February?
Correct.
Great, thank you. Are realtors as independent contractors, no LLC, still able to file for the expanded unemployment? What are the guidelines and qualifying criteria?
Yeah, I mean, if you normally would, when you filed your taxes, you are considered an independent contractor. You have the ability to, to show proof that that was your type of income. So yes, you would be able to apply or qualify for the expanded unemployment.
Great. So this is a nonprofit, and they're wondering, do we have to use 2019 990s? The year represented an anomaly because they received a very large one-time gift for a capital project, but it really threw them out of whack. It was a very unusual year for them.
You have the option to do 2018 or 2019. However, when you provide information as far as certification for, your business, your 2018 tax return can be used. However, when you complete the information on your on the application itself, it is going to specifically ask you for the numbers between April 1st, 2019 and September 30th, 2019 versus April 1st, 2020 to September 30th, 2020.
So it asks you for a 2019-2020 comparison, and then you can elect to either use 2019 taxes or 2018 taxes. It doesn't have to be the most recent one that you filed.
Correct.
Okay, thank you. We had an S Corp, but in December 2020, we dissolved it. We will continue operating as individual partners, husband and wife only. Are we still eligible to apply for grant relief?
I mean, can you demonstrate that the business is still active? I would think I would think so. Obviously, when it comes time to provide documentation that the business is active, then you would probably want to use your business license as your as proof of active in the business.
Great, thanks. Can you clarify how nonprofit organizations would supply 25% revenue loss documentation for the California grant? We are a different animal, so is that revenue donations?
Yeah, so anything above the line. So if you're, if that is the way that you bring in income or gross sales into your business through donations, then that is the way that you will, that is the type of proof or documentation you put. So if you look at your 990, whatever is stated there as your, gross revenue, that is what would qualify under what that income is, or what that amount is.
And in that, I don't have time to find it while we're live right now, but there it tells you specifically what line item on your 990 you use. And so look at that nice industry user guide, and it says in there exactly what line item.
That is correct. I don't recall the line right now, but yes, it is specifically there what number falls under that category.
Correct. What about businesses that were open after COVID? Do any programs apply to new businesses?
So as we shared, the program is designed for those businesses that were impacted, that the California Relief Grant is going to first give priority to those businesses that were impacted significantly. So even if you remained open and you still can show that you were still impacted, you still are eligible, because you do have, you would show, loss of in sales. However, if you went the opposite way, where you remained open and your sales increased, then that is an indication that you are not in need of the of assistance. So they are going to give priority to those businesses that can show the need or the significant impact of loss in sales.
And what about EIDL and PPP? Is there a date when you had to be operating in order to apply for those programs?
So, and as far as the eligibility, you just need to have been in business. So the fact that you closed doesn't disqualify you for being, not being active. You just were not open because of the, stay-at-home order. So that doesn't disqualify you. You just do need to make sure that, obviously your business was active as of June 1st, 2019. And in the case of PPP or EIDL is for as of February 15, 2020. Great. So just make sure that the fact that you were closed doesn't mean that you were out of business. You were just simply not in operation, but you were still active.
Great, thank you. Several days ago, we applied for the grant. We applied online and sent it before we could fully fill out all the areas. We reached out and were not able to reapply. What do you suggest?
So if you were not able to successfully complete the application, Lendistry has indicated that you can go ahead and complete a new application, and they will be contacting you when they're going through the review process to ask you which of the two applications is the one correct. So if you go back and try to, if it doesn't let you if it didn't send you a login or password already, then you can go ahead and apply. Just make sure that, be available when they do call so that they can ask which of the application is correct.
Great. And I want to just acknowledge the time. It's 1 o'clock. We still have 49 open questions. So Juliana, are you available to stay on maybe 30 more minutes?
Yes, we actually had set this time aside through 1:30. Yeah.
Wonderful. I have finished my application and uploaded it, but when I enter the portal, it says my application is still pending document upload. But then I click to go in the application and it does show all of my documents are uploaded. It is green. How do I finalize submission?
It should have asked you for, it should have asked you for you to complete or, or click on yes. I believe there's an option there. So if it's still showing pending and you've already uploaded the documents, it should give you an option to, to complete or to continue and be able to say yes. Otherwise, if that's not the case, I think that maybe we can, take it offline and see how we can assist them with
Yeah,
that.
and Ashley, honestly, I think that Lendistry is a little overwhelmed. And as indicated by, if you tried to apply the first day, the portal was super slow or you couldn't get through. I think there's also a chance that it's taking the servers and the computer like a little minute to catch up. And so, the deadline's the 13th, don't let it go to the 14th, but I would say, give it a couple days and see if that changes.
Yes, you brought out a very good point. This is one I will do the troubleshooting. Like, there's a reason that they are recommending that you use Chrome, as that is what the program is designed to, or you to be best supported by. So make sure that you're using Chrome. If you have not cleared your cached images or your cookies, I would encourage that you do that and retry it and see if that if that helps, or wait until it's not maybe peak hours, because maybe everyone's trying to get into the system around the same time during the day. I would say anywhere from 9 to 5, which is usually when you would be applying or working.
And I successfully applied this morning. And so I clicked the link in the email and it took me to log on and it just kept spinning and spinning and spinning. And I left it for like 5 minutes and then I refreshed and it went right there. Yep. So I think we just need to do all those good housekeeping things with our internet browser. Also, like you mentioned, clear your cache and cookies, wait till an off time. Yeah, hang in there, guys. We're all in this together. I did receive a new password for the grant and uploaded the 4 required documents. However, when I tried to click the button, save and close, it says that I need to complete the bank info, but the instructions on the webpage say that the bank info only needs to be completed if the application was approved. And it looks like our friend Juliana has paused again. I had the same experience, Dan, where it seems inconsistent. They're asking you for your bank info, but it says, oh, you're muted, Juliana.
No.
Oh, isn't this so fun, everyone? Don't you love COVID and doing everything on Zoom? I had the same experience, Dan, where it seemed inconsistent. I think follow whatever the web portal says. If it is asking you for bank information on the website, go ahead and do it, even though this like really nice guide says to do it secondarily. Hi, my friend Claire.
Thank you for jumping in. I just wanted to make sure we are all moving forward as much as we can. And we haven't really, I don't think we've mentioned this to all the people. Sorry if we have. I've been furiously scribbling notes over here as well. That we will be conducting another webinar next week. Emily, did we talk about that?
I don't think we've talked about it yet. And so, yes, everyone, we will do another webinar next week. We know this is so much information. We appreciate your patience. We are learning this along with you. They're even, adjusting the process. while we're in the process. So thank you for your patience. We will do another webinar next week. And also, Claire, I think we have a list of the other partner organizations like Weave, who are also doing webinars.
Yes, Women's Economic Ventures just had one actually this morning, but the Women's Business Centers have webinars around this. The Small Business Development Center Network has webinars. So we send out a webinar invitation, a webinar, weekly webinar update every Monday. So watch for that. If you're not on our mailing list, please visit ED Collaborative. If someone could put this in the chat, edcollaborative.com. At the very bottom, you'll see a link that says, please add me to your newsletter. So we're ending this at 1:30. I don't know if that was an old question. Please add me to your newsletter. Please do that ASAP, and we will make sure that you get the announcement for when the next webinar will be happening, either whatever day next week works for everyone. I think Juliana's back.
I am back. I am sorry. I don't know what happened. Sorry.
That's okay. Welcome back, Juliana.
Speaking of technical difficulties, that's what's happening to Landistry. So you can just imagine.
See, that's why there are so many of us here. All right, let's keep it rocking and rolling. Our business structure is a partnership, 50-50 ownership. One is a woman and one is a man. So can we count as a woman owned if it's 50-50?
Yes, you can. There was a specific question on that, and yes, it is.
Great. I don't have a tax return. Can I put my 940 form?
No, it is a specific that you need to have a tax return. If you don't have a 2019, then do 2018, and we will encourage you that if you don't have that information, that then you complete that ASAP.
Great. On our last tax return, fiscal year ending 7/31/2019, our revenue was over 1 million. However, our unfiled revenue for fiscal year ending in 2020 is almost 800,000. If we qualify, would our grant be 25,000? So if you're filing on a fiscal year versus a calendar.
Well, again, it's going to be based on what you report on your tax return. So just keep that in mind. And they're going to ask you, and again, the guide does specify from if you are a 990, it specifies which form, or if you are a different type of entity, it also specifies what type, what line item from there. So I would go by that number because that is what you are reporting.
Great. If I'm submitting my 2019 tax returns, do I submit the business license from that year or the current one?
The current one, because we need to be able to show the current is the one that is showing that you are an active business.
Great. Can you clarify on the timing requirement of the second round of PPP? If we receive funds in the first round and want to apply for the second round, do we need to complete the forgiveness for round one? Oops. Oh boy, it's jumping, sorry. Will the full amount be forgivable if used for eligible expenses?
So are we talking about the PPP loan here? Because you said a grant, so I got a bit confused. Is it the California? Okay.
PPP. So we're talking PPP. Can we apply for the second round? Do we need to file for forgiveness before?
No, actually, one of the provisions is that you can apply for an increase to your current PPP loan if you haven't already asked for forgiveness or applied for forgiveness. So this is where we encourage you to communicate with your lending institution or your bank to find out, number one, if they're participating, number two, what is going to be the process for this second round, because obviously they're following the guidelines, and the best one would be your bank to be able to tell you and guide you as to how you're going to be able to apply. But you don't have to, if you haven't applied for forgiveness, you don't have to apply for a second. You just, can increase that.
Excellent. And do you know when that's happening? I did mine through PayPal, and last time I checked, I wasn't able to apply.
So like I shared in one of the slides, some of the banks just recently got notified that as of Monday, community banks will be will be eligible to process applications, and then on Wednesday, all other banks. So they're giving priority to community banks from, Monday through Tuesday night, and then Wednesday it looks like the rest of the banks are. So again, I would encourage you to, stay in touch with your current lender. And I'm sure that some of those lenders have been sending information as to what they're doing and if they're participating.
Great. My first round PPP was based on 2 months of average payroll multiplied by 2.5. Has that changed and will it be corrected?
It would be the average payroll times 2.5 for all, for most businesses, except for restaurants or hospitality or accommodation businesses. Those are 3.5 times their average monthly payroll.
Great. And kind of follow up on that, what is the timeline for the 2.5 months of payroll? If we did receive first round PPP, is it 2.5 months of 2019 again or 2020?
Yes, that is where you're going to look at the application as to what periods, but in essence it corresponds to the same to the same provisions, except that now it expands to when you can apply. So in this case, March 31st, 2021, but it's still the rules are still the same on that.
Great. I also received an EIDL. Does that impact eligibility for PPP round 2 or the grant application?
It shouldn't impact that, especially if you can demonstrate that your business has been impacted and that you have lost in sales of greater than 25%.
Great. Where do I give info on how I spent my grant, and where do I get info on forgiveness? So Mary, you wrote grant, but I think what you're talking about is PPP. So let's, but I got a ton of these questions in the Q&A. So we've got the PPP, which is a loan. However, if you use it for approved expenses, you can apply for forgiveness, and you apply at the place that gave you the loan. So that could be a bank. For me, it was PayPal. It could be one of those online lenders. So whoever gave you the PPP, that's where you submit forgiveness. If you're talking about the California grant, that's a grant. You do not need to apply for forgiveness. And in terms of EIDL, there were sort of 2 chunks of EIDL. You got the first, the words just left my brain. You got the first deposit from the EIDL, and that is an automatically forgiven grant. And then you got the second chunk, which is the big chunk, which is your EIDL loan that does need to be does need to be repaid and cannot be forgiven.
Yes.
Confusing enough?
And yes, and what I would say is, just to clarify on the, when we're talking about grants, when we're talking about grants, in this case, the EIDL grant or the California relief grant, you don't need to show proof of how that money was spent unless you are selected for a review and they ask you for that information, which is why you are being required or you're being suggested or that you save your records for up to 4 years for that information. So you don't need to submit it anywhere for the grants. As Emily was saying, if you receive the PPP loan, then obviously that's different, because you're going to need to submit documentation proving that you have, utilized the funds for what you said you were going to use them. However, remember, there's a simplified application for those loans that up to 150,000, and the simplified form is that you simply, do an attestation or a certification that you have used the funds the way that you said you were going to use them. And then the bank will indicate what documentation, if any, you need to submit with that.
Great. And is it true? So there are restrictions on how you can spend certainly PPP in order for it to be forgiven, and you're making a good faith testimony that you'll use the grant. And just to clarify, you can use your EIDL loan for any business expense. Is that right?
Any operating expenses. And when I say any business expense, some people can think of an investment as a business expense, which is not necessarily, which is not necessarily what's allowed on, under an EIDL. Business operating business expenses, normally what you would do for your business, with the exception of, investing, like buying new equipment and such, unless this is, the course of your business.
Great. If you did not get EIDL the first time around, do you need to apply again, or is the old application still good? So Scott, I'm assuming you applied for EIDL, you got denied for EIDL, and the question is, can you make a new application?
You would need to reapply, yes.
Great. If we applied for EIDL before, and I'm assuming this new person received EIDL before, can you apply for a second EIDL loan?
Yes, so that you will be, but remember, there are new provisions which there are certain requirements, and one of those is you need to show some proof of your disruption, and that you were in an area most affected, or in a poverty area. There's also I lost my thought right now, but there are provisions as to what you can apply for again.
Great, thank you. I asked you this question this morning. The relief grant asked me with a drop-down menu choice only if you received, these different EIDL, PPP, or a local grant. I've received 2 of the 4 on the list, but can only choose one. Then the next question they ask is, what is the total you have received in COVID grants? But it's not clear if they mean just the one I was allowed to choose or both combined. So I have heard this question so many times, I had it myself. So read that email that you wrote to me, Juliana. Oh no, she froze again. Okay, so this question is vague. Everyone knows it's vague. I asked Juliana about it. I also asked Weave about it. So what we settled on is, yes, you can only select one. So Juliana recommended, I've received EIDL, PPP, and Ventura County grant. So I
apologize. I don't know what happened. I'm back. Sorry.
That's fine. I was in a fun position of answering my own question.
Good.
So Juliana, what we settled on is that, yes, you can only select one of those, and you should put which amount in the total. You should, oh boy, Juliana.
She froze again.
She froze again. I hate COVID. So you
should not put EIDL in the total.
Do not put EIDL in the total. So again, I received 2 chunks of EIDL. I got my EIDL advance, and then I got my EIDL loan. So there is not today clarity on, do I put my grant, my Ventura County grant, plus my EIDL advance in that total. I do not put my PPP in that total because I haven't filed for forgiveness yet. So today, PPP is still a loan. My EIDL loan is still a loan. So the question is, do I put my Ventura County grant plus my EIDL advance, or just my Ventura County grant?
That's a question for me. What I also wanted to say is, even if you were forgiven, don't forget that it's a forgivable loan, which is not a grant. So even if you were forgiven for the EID, for the PPP loan, it's not a grant. So let's just make sure that we understand that. So what we had said is that if you received an EIDL grant, and a Ventura County grant, you will add those 2, and you can select local, let's say, and then just put the two amounts.
Great.
Together.
Let's see. I'm sorry. We've reached the portion where I haven't filtered through.
It's okay. I just want to remind everyone to please, if we don't get to answer your questions, we'll do another, webinar where we can do more Q&A, and also that you contact us for no cost advisory services. So don't forget that.
I do my plug for EDC. I'm a business owner like you guys. I am an EDC client. I got a disaster loan from EDC after the Thomas fire. EDC is here for you. It is free. Your tax dollars have already paid for people like Juliana to help you do these things. So Brian, let's go ahead and put the information in the chat. You can call them. They'll set you up with someone like Juliana or Juliana directly to help walk you through this. You're not alone. These are wild times. So definitely reach out. EDC has saved my business. So, okay, plug over. I'm seeing a lot more questions with technical issues on Lendistry. So do those good housekeeping items that Juliana mentioned. Try at a time that might not be peak hours. I'm sorry you're having tech issues. Try Chrome, try it on a computer, not like a cell or a tablet. If you have a different computer, try that. I'm sorry you're having those issues. I don't have solutions.
Well, and the other thing that I was going to say regarding those issues, a lot of these issues could be avoided if we really go through that guide. You know, that guide was very well put together as far as, you know, what you should do if you do, A or B. That is what I would encourage everyone to go and try those steps. Obviously, if you continue having issues, then, contact us and we can see how we can, maybe we can help you to try what, something that you might not already be trying.
And I just want to add something to that about the guide, Juliana. We are in contact with Lendistry on a daily basis. They have changed that guide over 35 times to address issues that have come up. So if that hasn't been clarified, it's really helpful just to do a quick PDF search, open the PDF, search for the word that you're looking for, and it most likely is there. Regarding technical issues, I get that they come up. We're aware of all that. But when it comes to your specific circumstance, it most likely is in the guide and it will continue to be updated. So check back tomorrow, check back daily. They do daily updates.
Yeah, I also wanted to add that there's a Q&A section or within the website, and I myself have gone through those, and a lot of the questions you're asking the answers are right, right within that section. And like Claire very well said, they are updating them, regularly. So just, be patient, just like at the beginning of this.
We got one question and I asked the person for more clarification and it really startled me. The question was, the California grant is requesting a SAM, S-A-M certification, which costs $500 some. I don't know what a SAM certification is. It does not require a SAM certification. So if you're still here, I replied to you. I asked you to please email me a screenshot or a link to that to my email address, or you could send it to EDC or whatever, because I am very, very concerned that you might be on a scam website. So yes. I just want to be super clear, Juliana.
Right.
This does not, yes, you need to file your taxes, but this does not require any kind of certification that should cost you money. Yes, you need to have, a business license or show proof of that. But I am very concerned that we're going to start to see scams on this kind of thing.
Right. And I would say, remember, and that's why I try to keep it simple as far as what documents, number one, your tax return. That is the best and most simplest, the straightforward piece of documentation that you can provide. As far as documentation stating that your business is active, either if you're a corporation or have been incorporated and registered with the Secretary of State, you can go to sos.ca/search for business, and you'll be able to find your statement of information, your latest statement of information, or you can also find your original articles of incorporation on, for free, and you can get the PDF right from there. So if you're incorporated or registered with the state, if you're not, but then you have a business license, that's really the simplest way to, to certify that you are an active business. So, having your business license active is really the best, the best bet and the simplest. So you don't go through any anything, you know, outrageous like, you know, a certification, but please beware or be careful with, you know, anything that is asking you to pay money to certify anything. Don't.
Yes, and please, if you see that, send it to me, send it, Brianne, can we actually send it to the EDC? Brianne, let's put that in the chat again, because I think that's a scam and we definitely want to let the SBA know about it. We want to let Lendistry know about it so that they can clean that stuff up. Okay, so this person is with a nonprofit. Yes, and the question was, where do we look at for owners? So yes, the nonprofit has employees, because I was wondering if you have employees, it should be the executive director who is the owner. If you don't have employees, is it the board chair who is the owner?
That is correct.
Okay, and she says the executive director is a veteran and a person of color. So she's wondering if that would apply. Yes.
Yes, and remember how we said they're giving priority to this. So the more you select, or the more you fall under these categories, or these, you know, have these selections, the more likeliness. We're not saying you know, you will. We're just saying that it is more likely because they are giving priority to these type of businesses or organizations.
Great. The grant application has the bank information section and it asks for our bank password. Why is this necessary?
No, there's no, on which one again?
The grant application. So
Nope.
Jody, please email me a screenshot of that and the URL. It does ask for your bank information, so you'll need to enter the account number and the routing number, but you should not enter your bank password.
Correct.
Um,
Yeah. And I just want to clarify that, remember, you will not be giving the funds until you're actually approved. And that doesn't happen until actually, you know, after the, you know, it's starting the 15th, if things, you know, go as planned, starting the 15th is when when Lendistry will start notifying those that were approved, and, you know, for validation of the information. So you shouldn't be required to enter your username or password for anything anyway.
Great. We submitted for forgiveness prior to the new rule. This must be PPP. And the bank has not forgiven the idle advance amount. Will this just take time to forgive?
I'm sorry, can you repeat that question?
So remember before you had to take your idle advance out of your PPP forgiveness, but then they switched that. So it sounds like this person applied for PPP forgiveness and they had to deduct their idle advance.
Have
So
they been forgiven? So the question would be, have they been forgiven? If they've been forgiven, then you might need to go back to your lender and ask about that additional amount that you were not forgiven, or that you were that reduced your forgiveness. Because again, this is the new changes are retroactive. So you should be able to go back and apply for the remainder, or for that amount that was reduced. And again, your lender, you will go through your lender to go about, you know, that information.
okay, so here's something from the chat from Dan. It is true that when you click on the bank info, it is asking you to enter your user ID and password to your bank login.
Unless it's asking you to verify your username. I honestly haven't gotten to that point where you need to verify your bank account. It is my understanding that you first are notified that that you have been selected, or that you've been approved, and that then now there's going to be the validation process. So if someone is already up at that point, I don't think that that means that they're approved, though. That just that may be just to verify the account information. I, like you said, Emily, I would, Dan, we would encourage you that you send that information over. That would be helpful.
Yeah, and thank you all so much for helping us figure this out. Juliana and I are business owners just like you, trying to figure it out. Okay, it is 1:30. We have answered 69 questions and we still have 49 available. Friends, we will do this again next week. We're gonna post again all of the contact information into the chat. We are here for you. Call EDC, get hooked up. We are gonna get through this together.
Thank you everyone for attending. Thank you, Emily, and everyone on the back end. 409-9159 is the number. Everyone is literally standing by waiting for calls. I can't thank Juliana enough. She's amazing. She's definitely one of our best, if not best. Don't tell Gonzalo I said that. Just joking.
No.
He's probably listening.
I follow Gonzalo.
Yeah, we love Gonzalo. He's amazing. So we have incredible financial advisors to help you with all of these questions. Please call. The lines are open and we will get to this. And then remember to sign up for our newsletter at the bottom of edcollaborative.com, and you'll get a notice of when we will have our next webinar with Juliana and myself and the Visionality team. Thank you, guys.
Please remember, you're not alone. We're in this together. So please reach out and let us help you.
Yes, and Brianne, thank you. We will be sending out a recording to everyone with notes and a follow-up email by Monday. So look for that in your inbox.
Great, thank you.
Thank you.